Episode 27, the podcast of Tibetan Kung Fu. This is the podcast dedicated to our Kung Fu family. Those folks who practice Kung Fu to be a better person first and a better martial artist second. My name is Sifu T.W. Smith, and if this is the first time you've joined us, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the episode, and let's get right into it. First, multiple congratulations to both Allison and Travis, both who have accepted positions and earned opportunities of employment. Known them both for several years. Good, hard-working folks who have been making themselves ready for a new opportunity. Bruce came in over the weekend and informed me that the Reeling Silk Tai Chi program is moving along nicely, and I think Reed mentioned that he's going to be going up there to help him a little bit, so I'm excited about that. Mr. Reed will get you all squared away. Don't forget, come by on Mondays at 11:30 for that free half-hour meditation class. That's been very helpful. I'm doing this through December and January, 11:30 on Mondays, so you can come in, join me. It's an open forum. You can sit, stand, I can lead, follow, or it can just be quiet. It's all a matter of what you feel like you might want to do, but it's an open time to come in and settle out the day. Couple of anniversaries. This month, Bruce has been with me 8 years this month. I remember his first day here. Dwight, who some of y'all got to see, if you haven't seen him, he was in the video with me for the Push Hands Bakwa style workshop video that I posted up on Facebook and YouTube. Dwight's been with me 10 years this month. And it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure to work with both of those men. If your anniversary date is in December, let me know. Most of you all know that keeping up with birthdays and anniversaries, heck, even holidays, is not one of my strong suits, but I'm trying to do better. So help me through the process. So if you started it in any particular month, make sure I've got your anniversary date. Mr. Knox and I went through Hop Gar on Saturday. That was a lot of fun. Mr. Knox has completed the second long form of Hop Gar. At this point, he has embraced and learned more of the Hop Gar system and probably spent more time in it than anyone else who's been with me. This is where he's put most of his emphasis and balancing it out. I mean, things including the mental strategies, the techniques, the third dimension of techniques and strategies called timing, physically interpreted many of the classics. For example, if your opponent don't move, make him move. Or, one of my favorites, there's never any blocking. Knowing the four pillars of Hop Gar. The balance of the system is built in yin. That's the meditation that keeps the practitioner balanced. Hop Gar is a full teacup system. The conditioning aspects, wooden poles, wire whips, iron rings, moki pai, wood ear blocks. Physical conditioning. You can't be a slacker and practice Hop Gar. Short forms, long forms, formless forms. He's learned how to submerge himself for the past couple of years in Hop Gar, and he's been recently, for the past few months, working his Bakwa to make his Hop Gar better. And within a couple of months, he has seen the difference. Having what we call Bakwa legs can make. The reason I share all that with you is that you all, as my students, or even if you're a practitioner of a different style or system, one of the ways that you can always tell if the internal Kung Fu is working, and you can go back to that podcast, by the way, but you can always tell if the internal Kung Fu is working because you can leave something alone and it will get better because you've gotten better. So in this case, Mr. Knox has noticed that his Hop Gar has improved even though he's been working on his Bakwa because he's better. His understanding, his footwork, his timing, his centeredness is better. Speaking of Bakwa, we had an absolute great time on the Bakwa Push Hands workshop. Push Hands, sometimes called Tui Shao, is an opportunity to apply principles and skills. It's less about learning. It's more about applying the theories, making them come out and exercise a little. I'm going to play some audio for you now. That's some excerpts from this past Saturday's Bakwa style workshop. As we were just discussing, the thing with Bakwa Push Hands is that it does so much at once. When he's pushing on me, in this case, I'm having to turn to my unnatural side. Right, now, the reason why is because the old rule is that when your opponent attacks your right, give him your right. So he's on my right. As he pushes, I give him my right. Now, as I come around, I'm on his left. So which way is he supposed to turn? Which is his natural side. So this hand's going to slide underneath. And as I push, he turns, it diverts. And now he's back on the push. There you go. So up. Yes, there you go. And a little later, when you saw Dwight and I step, slip underneath. Yep. Mm-hmm. When you saw Dwight and I step earlier, when we stepped, my side change. So I turned it to my natural side, he'd be on his unnatural side. But the techniques up here wouldn't change. Now, for you all who are Bakwa practitioners, Olin, Dawn, Leah, Dragon hides the lotus flower. So there you go. With that little audio, we talked about Principle 1. When your opponent attacks your right, give him your right. Principle 2, get comfortable on your natural and unnatural sides with the same technique. Principle 3, once one stage is comfortable, get the challenge moved up. Start to move your feet. And Principle 4, see what you saw. During that little excerpt, I point out a practice that several of the students have done many times. It's called the dragon hides the lotus flower. And when I point it out to them, you hear the ah. Now, I've done that on many occasions. We used to call it the reverse engineering, where a single technique shows up in this expression that you're working on, and you have that, oh crap, I've been doing it. Aha. Without even looking for it, I've been doing it. Those are great moments. They're a little frustrating because the more you look for it, the less you can make it happen. But then when you do it, it starts happening. That is where that old saying comes from. Learn to do without doing. And these are all things that we don't just theoretically believe, we physically demonstrate. And that is important. I realized that I began a draft on something a few months ago, and I set it to the side because we had some other things that became hot topics along the way. But we're going to bring out this concept that is called Chi. Now, Chi is one of the most polarizing terms that's associated with Kung Fu or karate. I think it's called Ki. And in yoga, it's called Prana. Life force is another way of interpreting it. Now, I see all kinds of folks respond differently when you think of the word Chi. Over the years, I've seen a lot of different types of folks. Here's a few descriptions. Snake oil Chi fakes. Weekend fanatics who stop in to get certified. Folks who claim that they can shoot a force field out of their hands that will kill you, and I'm assuming they can also shoot a rainbow out of their rear end. Unfortunately, these snake oil type folks will oftentimes overshadow the more pragmatic and more scientifically based examples of ways you can interpret the concept of Chi. In full disclosure, let me just say, no one I know was more skeptical than me. First, in case you didn't know, I was learning this Kung Fu in North Carolina. The internet wasn't around where I grew up. Heck, we didn't really even have that much of a library. What do I mean by that? The closest thing I had to learn from Chi was my Sifu who was telling me about it in the Britannica Encyclopedia. Most of you probably don't even know what the Britannica Encyclopedia is. And it was all I had to rely on. No mention of Chi in undergraduate school or graduate school either. I was trained with the physical interpretation of the world, and the assumption that this physical interpretation was reality. My dad was a hammer guy. If there was a problem, hit it more. If there was a problem, hit it harder. Hit it with a bigger hammer. He was good at it. However, this does become a part of a problem when you're trying to understand the yin side of the world. and that's because there's not a balance built in to the hammer approach. First, in discussing Chi, let's just simply look at the character that represents the word in Chinese. You must also understand before we go any further that there is more than one type of Chi, just like there is more than one type of energy. The Chinese character Chi is represented by a grain of rice inside a boiling pot of water with steam rising above. It's natural to assume the fire underneath that is causing the heat is also part of the Chi. The pot is the container, and the rice is the nutritive core. The steam in its movement is the energy produced. There is also a lid to release the steam as the energy builds underneath. The rice is the substance within us, such as food, drink, emotions, and thoughts. This is Chi. The pot that holds the rice can represent your body. The Chi of substances is also a type of Chi. How we process and transform these substances, the cooking part, is also Chi. The steam, the lid, and its movement, or what we give off, or how we express ourselves, is Chi. So your actions, thoughts, and emotions and spirit all form Chi as well. That which excites us, fuels us, moves us, that's the fire below. It's also Chi. Therefore, everything around you and about you is associated with Chi. The action, the movement, the relationship of all these things creates a fluid motion of Chi in and around you. Without this complete and healthy process, we suffer from pain, problems, and disease. This very simple character, rice in a pot, letting go of steam, is not very intellectually complicated, but it seems complicated. Conceptually, it's not very complicated. I mean, we're just cooking rice over a fire. So there's the character. Now let's take a pragmatic viewpoint of Chi energy. I want to put out there that I am not trying to sway, disprove, or argue that this is the way, the only way, or the all-encompassing definition of Chi. However, I will argue that, 1, if you don't have any definition of Chi, Ki, or Prana, it's most likely because you don't want one. If you don't have some corral around it, like some sort of definition, you could end up duped by some pretty slick Chi artists out there too. I've seen and met several over the years. Here's my equivalent of Chi as life force. First, I go in understanding there is no one Chi. As I described before, there are many forms of energy. But if I keep it simple, which is something that's important to me to try to do, is keep things simple, the Chi we breathe in and take in from the environment is one form of Chi. How do you know? Well, it's not complicated. I feel a lot better when I'm outside doing my meditation in a nice garden with flowers and pretty trees as compared to being near a garbage dump. Sound, sight, smell, aesthetics, harmony all contribute to what you perceive as a pleasant environment. The Chi we eat and drink. The cliche, you are what you eat, applies here. That one's easy. The Chi passed down from your ancestors, messenger RNA, are all good examples of the invisible that eventually become very evident forms of ancestral Chi. The energy passed down from my grandmother and granddad would easily qualify in this realm. You may define it differently, but it all boils down to a form of energy that they passed to me. These are all blended and create the Chi that circulate in the meridian lines. This is the Chi that the Oriental medical doctors, for example, will evaluate and adjust through your diet, exercise, meditation, or other forms of lifestyle factors, acupressure, acupuncture, things like that as well as far as therapies go. This circulating Chi contributes to the Chi energy that keeps us protected from environmental sickness. My mom, probably your mom too, would say, don't go out in the rain. It can make you sick. Well, one part of me always wondered, well, what's so big about going outside in the rain? I mean, it didn't make sense. I take a shower every day. If getting wet is what's going to give me a cold, then I should be sick all the time. But it's more that there was coolness in the dampness. If your chi is not strong and staying strong, you put yourself at risk of being sick. Not so much about being in the rain, it's the combination of being in the damp and cool for an extended amount of time. Your outside energy acts as a cachet against environmental sickness, keeping the sicknesses and disease off of you. So that was my energetic interpretation of Chi. Here's my physiological interpretation of Chi. And I'm open to adjusting this in the future if you see a major gap in it. But for the past few years, this has worked as a very good working definition for me. I am open to adjusting this in the future if you see a big hole in it. But for right now, and for the past couple of, I want to say a little, probably 15 years or so, it's worked as a good working definition for me to understand a physiological interpretation of Chi. Here's my little formula. Bioelectrical energy plus oxygen plus blood, in that order of priority. Bioelectrical, oxygen, and blood. Here's the reasons why. If you take out your bioelectrical energy, you're done immediately. Oxygen is next, because you can go a couple of minutes before you're done. Blood, even though it is essential, you can replenish some of it if it's lost. But without any doubt, without any one of these three, your life force is gone. You have to have the electrical energy, you have to have oxygen, and you have to have the blood. If you're flowing well, breathing well, and filled with energy, electrolytes and other important materials, your Chi is going to be pretty good. Now, when you put it under that, look at how stress and emotions affect us. Every emotion we have affects how you breathe. Your breathing and your heart function are intertwined. They cannot hardly be separated. So this can give us a decent working definition, at least on a physiological level, that you can explain Chi. Miao Xing, the abbot of the Shaolin Temple a long time ago, one of my favorite historical characters, once when he was writing about Chi, he wrote, and I'll paraphrase, he wrote, "Blood and breath are both essential to life. One without the other is useless." Now, thirdly, here's my martial arts definition of Chi. Your ability to create the maximum amount of power with the least amount of effort. The more power you can create with the least amount of effort, the better your Chi. This working definition was something that was learned through years of hard work and sweat. In the book Chinese Martial Training Manual by Brian Kennedy and Elizabeth Go, which there will be a link on the webpage and in the PDF file, and the show notes, they state that historically, during the examination of Chinese martial arts manuals of the 1700s and 1800s, the emphasis was placed on this type of biological and biomechanical definition. So this was not something that was always rainbows. There was a real biomechanical definition of what good Chi was. This formula encapsulates togetherness, concentration, relaxation, framework, speed, whole body integration, coordination of thought and action one time. Tension, thinking, predetermined action, being out of balance, all will lower your Chi, because you cannot be biomechanically efficient if you're predetermined in thinking. A practitioner that has quick hands is in trouble if he meets a practitioner that trains. A practitioner that has quick hands is going to be in trouble if he meets a practitioner that trains in a quick, full-body mass sort of power. Power is determined in basic physics as work divided by time. So if I can move my body as a unit, like when we practice in the Bakwa push hands, then our power goes up exponentially. Or if you can change the denominator by doing the same amount of work in a fraction of a second quicker, power shoots up. Being poised, relaxed, and in the moment, I'll make this happen. And that's your clue. So the mental is as important as the physical to create power. This is where your standing and seated meditation and posting your Jam Jung comes into play. Your Yi Chan work, mind fist work, will pay huge dividends in this area. Without this type of work, for the most part, you might end up like I was, just one brute trying to overcome another brute with brute. A few years ago, Mr. Tasca brought me a book, and it was the book, Chinese Martial Arts Training Manual. And I was looking through it and was pretty impressed. I always loved finding things that spoke of the same things I had learned, but from a different perspective. Maybe it was historic. Maybe it was a good example of what they interpreted it as. But on pages 26 and 27, and I wrote them to get permission to read some of this to you, he writes the Chi question. The word Chi can be used in 4 ways. 1, a life force. 2, biomechanical efficiency. 3, anything about the martial arts that the speaker doesn't understand or cannot put into concrete terms. That's what we call snake oil. Or combinations of the above. As a side note, we were always required, and I mean required, to be able to physically interpret the classics. Those of you who've been around me hear me say it all the time. Don't tell me, show me. This is how you learn to easily recognize not just the meaning of the term, but the representation of its expression. It really helps when you run into the all lip service but no essence sort of speakers. Now back to the book. When you explain Chi from the life force model, Chi, quote, is viewed as being a separate thing that moves through the human body like a current of electricity or some fluid. In contrast, the biomechanics model of Chi as a quality of efficiency and coordination means that Chi is not a separate set of things, but rather a state of being. It is the same problem that faces modern scientists who must describe light as both particles and as waves. End quote. So there are 3 different models of understanding Chi. My working models of both energy, a pragmatic viewpoint, physical viewpoint of it, martial arts as well. And I wanted you to share this with you because having an understanding of this concept will help you a lot. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. I tell my students all the time, pick one, become good at it, understand it from your viewpoint. Then you can embrace another. If you tend to be more of a pragmatic person like myself, then take the martial arts approach. Learn how to relax your mind. Get your mindset done. Use your meditation to help you learn how to generate power. Then you can understand other viewpoints later. If you tend to be more sensitive and feel like that having a more energetic approach to it helps you, then take it. It's not for me to decide how a student interprets anything. Embracing that and then learning how to express it and then taking on something else is more what I'm concerned about. So in closing, let me make a couple of announcements. I'm looking forward to the Bakwa Fundamentals class group this Saturday at 11. Remember that the Qigong class Saturday morning that is dedicated to the harmony and balance of a strong sex drive is going to be this Saturday at 8 a.m. as well. I have recorded 3 more of the meditations. That's going to be part of the 10 to 15 total meditations that I will have done for the lifetime content members, and I'm hoping to have that within the next 10 to 12 days. And I'm also going to make it easier for supporting us in some of the things that we're trying to do by enrolling us over at Patreon. So, for example, we're looking at getting some new wood dummies and things like that here, and I'm making an effort to try to put together some funds. We've had some of the good students like Scott and all and Jeff and Dwight and all who are contributing to the process. And this will make it easier for all of us in order to try to generate the resources to get us some more tools for our practice. I'll give you some more information about that in the future. But there it is. We recognized a couple of your Sehings, Dwight and Bruce, updated Mr. Knox's status on the Hop Gar, and got more to come on the Hop Gar and all that. Excerpts from the Bakwa push hands and what we emphasize while we're trying to practice. We're going to do the push hands workshop again soon. We'll get a better idea from you all about when you're going to be ready for it. And then a good conversation about Chi, the energetic formula, the Marshall formula, realizing they all become one in the end. I really do appreciate when you leave a review over at iTunes or Stitcher. It helps other people find us, and that helps all of us along the way. It is truly, truly my pleasure to have a Kung Fu family that I get to work with, share with, and sweat with. And because of you all, I have the opportunity to practice Kung Fu to be a better person first and a better martial artist second. I look forward to talking with you, seeing you soon. This is Sifu T.W. Smith. Get out and practice.